Welcome to the Grow Your Business and Grow Your Wealth podcast with Gary Heldt. Gary is an expert in helping business owners put together a plan that will provide a better future for their businesses, themselves, and their families. On the podcast, Gary interviews other professionals who share his vision, and together they share secrets and strategies any business owner can use to build a better financial foundation for your business and your life.
Hey, welcome back to the podcast. This week, my guest is Sheila Slick, and she is the president of 5 Milestones LLC. Welcome, Sheila.
Hi, thank you very much, Gary, for hosting me today.
Great. So give us some of your background. What was your prior life before, 5 Milestones?
So I'm a fourth generation entrepreneur, so it runs in my DNA. It's how I was raised. A lot of my formative years were in my family business in Miami, Florida. So after graduating college, I knew the path somewhere along the line was entrepreneurship. I met my other half, and he too was an entrepreneur, from many different generations. And so together we decided to graduate and find that path to entrepreneurship. But that's when reality kind of sinked in, right? You need some money. So we did have the business plan and we had a vision, but we needed to go out and get that experience and the money in order to make any of those dreams come true. The year was 1995, so it was about 30 years ago.
Okay.
And a year after graduation, I had a death in my family that led me to go overseas to the funeral. And it was to Nicaragua. It was in a post-communist era. And when I got there, I didn't know if I'd have a job. We weren't happy, at a job. And what I saw was a lot of opportunity to be able to come in and help reconstruct the company. So when I went back and told him, he said, I'm in. He didn't even speak Spanish. 3 months later, we found ourselves at about 22 years old living overseas with our first manufacturing company. And so it was an opportunity that just presented itself. That's my beginning. After a couple of years in the construction industry, the business finally, started producing, breaking even. And then my grandmother, from the other side of the family moved to the country, and she proposed that my mother and I help her start her own retail jewelry store, which had been her trade for over 30 years.
Okay.
And so I jumped on that boat. And that next decade of my life was probably one of the best experiences, because not only did I go from a male-dominated industry, but now I went to like glamour and femininity.
Right.
And most importantly, the mentorship, right, of two of the women, that had helped form me. And that all went great until I started getting like this feeling that I had wanted more. I had wanted education, MBA, to see, how do I get that education to help us go to that next level?
Right.
And I'm a mother of 3 kids, and we come on a vacation, back to visit family here in the States, when Apple introduced the mobile application, the iPod Touch. And I thought, what am I thinking? Wanting to get an MBA, like this is the future. If I were to go back in time, I'd learn this, right? Like, how do you program? And so going back to that third world country, I started thinking, I've got these 3 kids, and someone's got to make sure that they're prepared, for that 4th industrial revolution that's coming, technology. And I learned how to code. And it was a bit untraditional, because the people learning, or the people that knew how to code, were, either self-training or just coming out of college at 18. And here you had a woman, a 36-year-old woman, mother of 3 kids, just figuring out how to make these mobile apps. And I did it as a hobby. So a couple of years later, I had probably about a dozen apps all in the App Store. They were all educational, teaching math, teaching languages. I'm a jeweler, remember, with my mother and my grandma. And I get this invitation by one of the local colleges inviting me to participate in a hackathon for NASA. And I was like, oh boy, Where is this going? I am not a hacker. I am not a scientist, right? Like, there's no way I can participate. And that's when the kids came in and said, Mom, you've always taught us that you can't fail if you don't even try. You're not even trying. And I thought, oh my God, what have I raised? Okay, but now I needed motivation, right? Because remember, I'm a jeweler, and this was just my educational, my passion, my purpose.
Right.
And so I went back to the university and I said, you know what? I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it to teach others how to program, because there were no other programmers for Apple at that time. That's why, I had come up in a conversation. We know this woman doing these apps. I said, I am going to use it and as an opportunity, to open source it so that others can learn. So do not expect us to win, because we're competing against, like the world. See it as a learning opportunity. And what really came as a surprise was that of over 7,600 projects that participated, our project was selected by NASA and received a global honorable mention for most inspiring.
Wow.
And so that little app that could then made some news. And now I had different organizations, companies, and even the State Department all coming to me, asking me, to develop either a learning program or these mobile applications that they weren't able to get done before in the country. And so now I turned back to Mom and Grandma. I said, I've never not had to sell. And I never thought teaching someone technology could make a difference or an impact in their lives. And so I'm going to form my third company, this time alone. And that's how I got in tech. And that was probably 2013, about a decade ago.
Okay.
Everything was wonderful. I accomplished a lot, took it to the next level, participated in summits, even had a weekly TV show just to teach others about technology. When something unexpected happened that led us to rethink our values, our future, our kids' futures, and we decided to move back, here to the States. So now I found myself like, okay, maybe it's a great time to, learn, see what I want to do next with my life. And I chose to handle that transition by going back to school. And what was going to be an MBA turned out to be a master's of science in leadership, because it's change management. And it really taught me, how to go through that process. And I was so fascinated by it, I ended up graduating during COVID. So I was at a point in my life where I knew that everything I had accomplished at one point or another had been accomplished. So I thought that I'd want to, give back to others. I had that void of giving back. And so I went back into the startup community. And what I saw was all these wonderful projects and so many people not understanding business. And it was like, oh my gosh, where is your cost of user? Like, how is this profitable? Or you're trying to just find free money and you don't even have the proper business plan in place. And then it led me to want to get involved in the community. So I joined SCORE. I became chairman of the board for 2 counties, Volusia and Flagler counties. I just completed my term in December, and I was able to lead a team of mentors, to make a very positive impact in our community. And after meeting all kinds of entrepreneurs, whether it was in the tech space, in the startup space, or, people dreaming of starting their own business, I realized that that really is my passion. And that's why I serve as a coach and a consultant, as a business coaching consultant. 5 Milestones builds some of the systems that the people need, because no matter how much strategy you give them, right, then they need to build the tech.
Right.
And either they don't understand it or they try and DIY it and then they don't see results. So that's where I'm at today.
Right. That's I'm going to say a heck of a journey to get where you're at, because you've kind of evolved yourself a few different times and different and in different you know, places and, you know, different industries and things like that. So that makes it even, you know, more inspiring, you know, that you've done that. That's for sure. With 5 milestones, you know, you say that you, with SCORE and everything else, that you're helping you know, these businesses. I mean, are you finding that many of the businesses that lack these needs that you're providing to them, is it because they were, I'm gonna say tacticians, they were the plumber who went from being a plumber to now he owns the business or she owns the business? Are you finding that that's more of it, so they just don't have the basic business skills that others may have?
So sometimes that is, you know, right on track. And we even do, you know, offer programs pretty much to at least just plan your business, have some kind of a plan. When people just kind of try and wing things, sometimes it just, you know, it just doesn't work out. Even having a plan doesn't mean it is going to work out. It
Right.
just at least, you know, defines where you need to go and go through the thinking process of how am I going to get there, and getting someone else's, you know, second set of eyes, you know, to help you tweak it and make sure, you know, that if there are any changes or suggestions, or sometimes, you know, just working it through will make you, you know, see it from a different perspective. So in the case of some of these, you know, like you said, the, you know, the plumbers, the contractors, those are actually a lot of the most profitable
Mhm.
and easiest businesses to kind of begin, because, you know, we all need them and they're experts at what they do. They have that trade or that skill. Some of the errors that they will do when we talk about not understanding business, they may not need much marketing or sales because of the need. They may just, you know, need referrals because, you know, with the referral, it can start multiplying. But then when you start asking them, well, what's your profit, or where are your expenses, right? How can you scale? Sometimes they just don't understand, you know, the basic accounting that goes behind it.
Yep.
And they'll hire a bookkeeper, hand over the papers and say, I don't know, you know, like the bookkeeper's taking care of
Right.
it. Or sometimes we will have people that say, well, you know, I'm just building through Square or whatever, you know, processing platform, and I just export those you know, those reports and hand them on over. So they're not aware, and they don't revise these financial statements, at least, you know, and with so many apps out there that can like pull that information for you and connect to your payment processor and your bank,
Right.
there's no reason why you shouldn't have a simple dashboard that can at least help you visualize, you know, where I need to focus some of my attention.
Right. Right. I think that, you know, lots of times I know from, you know, my side of things that I look at it and I try to explain to people that, you know, that say, oh, well, I have a CPA. It's like, it's great that you have a CPA, but most of the time the CPA is your tax advisor and not necessarily, I'm going to say, your business advisor. You know, you were talking about, you know, people understanding their break even and all of that kind of stuff. And if you're not, you know, have somebody digging into those numbers to help you figure that out, you're not going to be able to get there. And many times people think, oh, my CPA is doing that. That's a totally different engagement transaction as compared to somebody doing your taxes, because again, they're doing your taxes, not, you know, helping you build that. When you guys come in, how do you guys help a business understand that side of things?
So sometimes it's just a conversation. And, you know, I have niched down to serve the people that, you know, I feel I can really make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And where my passion has, you know, been leading me is the kind of expert that has that master's or that PhD. Um, and they have the knowledge and the experience to make that impact. And they just don't have, you know, that business part that for me just, you know, it comes natural. It
Right.
was wham, you learn that really hard. It was like 101 back when I
Right.
was 20. And that's what you really have to focus on to be profitable and be able to do what you want to do. So the way that I kind of sometimes just explain it, simply is share, a tool that you can use. There's a paid one, there's free ones. I've done it not just with experts, I've done it with my own kids, right? You don't need to be a business owner in order to at least be financially aware of where your
Right.
budgets are. Teach them a simple budget, give them a simple tool, and then a way to just, at least review it so that you're aware and able to make smarter decisions.
So when you're working with these business owners, even if you get them to the point of understanding their numbers and being able to help predict, because so many times, you know, again, to me, information is knowledge, and as you get more information, then you're able to do more planning, and the fact of, hey, how many of all of your estimates that you've done, or quotes, or whatever you want to call them, how many are you closing? So then you can figure out, okay, how many do I need to do to close to get to the numbers I want to get to? When you have a business owner that even knows all of that, how do you get them or help them communicate that to the people that they have that working with them? Because I find many times the business owner doesn't necessarily know how to properly lead and be able to get their vision to their employees.
Okay, I just need you to kind of rephrase the question again.
So you
so that
have
I-
you have your master's in leadership. How
Yeah,
do you
okay.
help that business owner lead their employees in communicating to them what their vision is? Because I see many times business owners aren't articulating to their employees what their vision is.
So I would say involvement. Everybody, no matter what you do, how much you earn, where you're at in life, we all want to be heard. We all want to be validated. And the best way to do that is to ask you for your opinion and for your feedback. So by just taking that small step, right, it'll have a big impact, because now when you come back, you can even ask them, how can I better communicate with you, right? What does that look like? And when you take some of that feedback back, you're now engaging them in the conversation and the decision-making process. And that's part of having an entrepreneurial mindset. And you don't need to be an entrepreneur to share an entrepreneurial mindset within an organization to understand that together you're going to make that business grow, right? Which is the primary reason businesses exist. It's
Right.
not a nonprofit, right? It's
Yeah.
to make that bottom line. So the
Right.
better the company does, the better you will do. So that would be how I would love to answer that question, is by making them part of that process. And a lot of times what happens with smaller businesses, right, is they don't have a human resources department. And so they don't have someone taking care of, what's going on, with that feedback. How can I communicate it? And if they do have a human resource department, because we're a big organization, sometimes what happens is that communication gets lost. You're not asking the right people, or that's just turning into unactionable data, right? Okay, we got the information here, but we didn't do anything about it. And if we did, it's either maybe not as efficient as it could be, or it's just taking way too long. So I've been on both ends.
Mhm.
And, the best way as a leader is ask them for their feedback.
So, many times, and I think we've all gone through this, that own businesses have gone through it at some point in time, where sometimes, we get lost amongst the trees in the forest, and the fact that we are not, we're not working on the business, we're working in it. How do you get the business owner to kind of take that step back and really try to work on their business as compared to in it?
Well, normally when we're sitting down, if we were having this conversation, right, We identify where you're at now and where you want to be.
Mhm.
And then, we analyze the processes that are in place and we try and map out where's that gap. Because wherever that gap is, that's where you want to focus, right? It's almost like putting out a fire. You want to first, focus where you'll have the most impact. So helping a lot of the small businesses, right? Apart from, the accounting, which is of course necessary to make those decisions and make sure, that you've got
Right.
your eyes on the numbers, that you're profitable. Where they lack is marketing or sales. Because without that, you have no revenue. And without revenue, you don't have a business. You have no
Right.
cap.
Right.
And so, what comes first, right? Like the egg or the chicken. So that's where you have to begin and start analyzing, well, how are we obtaining, our clients? How are we nurturing them and closing on those, with those clients? How are we delivering? And then, of course, review all of your financials. So by at least going through a more simpler framework, right? And just identifying and understanding, those 4 points, say, well, where can you make an impact? Is it your marketing? Is it your messaging? Do you have a lot of leads and you're just not closing them? Or, do you have the clients, but they're not turning into repeat clients, right? Like what's wrong if you've already got the clients? Why aren't you growing? If
Right.
it's lack of time, lack of efficiency in the operation, well, what systems do you have in place? I see a lot of small businesses, manually do a lot of things that technology can come in and, you build it once and then it works for you. But they either want to try and do it themselves. They don't feel they have the time to take away, from their business. They don't want to hire maybe an employee because it'll increase their cost, or they don't want to train someone, with their systems. And that's when it's a great opportunity to find someone that can support you or build it for you. And instead of seeing it like, oh, it's just another expense, you see it as an investment.
Right.
If you get the right person, then that should bring a return on its investment because it brought you results.
Yeah, I think lots of times people don't leverage automation. And I think that, obviously if you can automate things and you feel comfortable trusting it, then that frees up so much of your time to do so many other things that you weren't able to do before because you were doing things with that manual process.
Yes.
In going through that, this process with the business owners, I'm assuming that you're helping them find these automation tools to be able to do this.
Yes. So about a year and a half ago, because I practice what I preach,
Right.
and people talk, you're doing your business plan again, like an entire year went by, right?
Right.
And when I say redo your business plan, and I will take it and just, revise it, print it, and keep it, at site. And it's a Word document. I can just go back and, tweak it. And then I
Right.
do like the long version, and the short. And so one of the things I had done, remember, I do tech, right? About 2 years ago was I learned how to connect certain software, just to eliminate a few tasks. So instead of not using the Excel sheet, I was just using it a different way. Instead of manually inputting the information, I was taking it from my software to Excel.
Right.
And I started counting how long it took me to just previously, right, have input one transaction, one road. I multiplied it by 12 and I thought, oh my God, I just saved this many hours.
Right.
What I need to do now is repeat with other processes. And because I know how to program, automation is as simple as a conditional statement. If this happens, that needs to happen. That's automation.
Right.
We don't need to complicate it, right? The question is, do you want to do it or do you want someone else, to help you do it? So when I saw that efficiency and you start putting numbers, right? Well, what is that hour worth? And you multiply it. I made it a point to add on to my business plan that I needed to now find other, other places that I could do the same. And because of the way I roll, I began to look for that perfect system. I tried different systems and then went back, picked one, and became a certified partner. So I went not just through automation, but I went through the entire program to learn how to do advanced automations. And the program that I chose goes beyond the automation. It actually combines a lot of the website, right, to help you create that awareness, help you convert it, right, through the marketing, automate that process, but it also allows you to invoice and to do your estimates. It serves as a payment processor, and it also works as a CRM. So I was able to consolidate and start automating these little processes, and each one, every time you build one, it's just like, a celebration, because now you're just sitting back and watching it work for you. And then you need to come back and say, well, where can I optimize it, right? And that is continuous. It's not like, okay, I'm going to build it today and then just go on my laptop to the beach and forget about it.
Right.
That's true. The only constant is change. Let's always remember that. So it is always necessary to review it and say, okay, how's it going? How can I test it? And, that's when you go into A and B and see if I can improve it. And to me, that's part of the key to growth, right? Is reviewing and optimizing, whether it's personal, whether you're a business, taking that time, to review and then make that change.
Yeah, I think it's important in that if it's documented, then you can measure against it, and you need to be able to measure against it. So if it's your business plan, or if it's a budget, or if it's, goals that you set for yourself personally, things like that, if it's in writing, I have found that it's there kind of in your face, and it kind of makes you look at it more often, which I think is going to help you grow as a person and as a business if you're going through that. So,
yes. And not only with the growth, maybe even provide you that fulfillment, that extra time and that extra money that, we're all looking for.
Right. All right, we've covered a lot of stuff in a short period of time, and we could keep talking about this for hours. What have I not asked you that you wish I had?
Well, we've gone through a lot. Let me just so if I had one thing, and it's that advice that I could give anyone listening, today, because this is a channel about growth, is to always stay updated, continuous learning, right? No matter what stage you are in life, either because of age or in your business, remember that only constant is change. And so always continue learning so that you can adapt and grow.
Right.
Yeah.
Sheila, if people like what they hear and they want to reach out to you, talk to you, how can they reach you?
One of two ways, SheilaSlick.com or 5milestones.com. Those are my two websites. I am also on LinkedIn.
Great. I really appreciate your time today. I think that you've had a lot of experience in dealing, like I said earlier, with a lot of different industries and stuff like that, which gives you a wealth of knowledge. And I'm glad that you're able to help people and give them, pass some of this on to them to help them better themselves in their businesses. So, I really appreciate your time today.
And me yours. And thank you everyone for watching.
All right, thank you. This week, our guest was Sheila Slick, who is the president of 5 Milestones LLC. I will see you guys next week.
49 faces looked to him in triumph. Over the last 12 months, they had each taken turns and promoted his business for a week at a time, driving over $987,342 in revenue. What if you had a network of 50 centers of influence who promoted your business every week for a year? Grab your copy of the #1 Amazon best-selling book, The Ultimate Guide to Growing Your Business with a Podcast, at 33% off the Amazon price by going to ultimatepodcastbook.com. Again, that website for 33% off the Amazon price is ultimatepodcastbook.com.